Okay.
All right. Well, welcome all. Thank you very much, Ramrai and Team Pinnacle, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to moderate this Pinnacle series webinar session. We are here again with our discussion series on a topic that people in India are vouching for apart from the COVID-19. In the recently concluded long and tumultuous US election process that ended last November paved the way for Democratic candidate Joe Biden to be the 46th US president to go to the White House on January 28th. The result marks a change in the administration and to some extent the shift in the US foreign policy from Republican to Democrats. Traditionally, the Republicans are more conservative, who have believed in looking inwards, mostly towards domestic issues. In contrast, the Democrats have always looked for the extensive and comprehensive foreign policy, which includes human rights, global terrorism, climate change, and COVID-19, which has become the major focal point in today's time. Therefore, following the same template, Joe Biden has also stressed working on the present global health pandemic and pending issues that were left out during the Trump administration. It isn't easy to anticipate the trajectory of relations between India and the US under Biden administration. However, there is a sense of satisfaction with the result of election in the US. And I must also state that this satisfaction is not only about Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, but also the Democrat Joe Biden. Biden has a track record of working closely with India. He was a part of historic Indo-US nuclear deal, or when he was Senate Foreign Relations Committee chairman in 2008. Biden played a crucial role in lifting the US sanction on India in the Obama administration. At the same time, talking about Kamala Harris, the descendant of Tamil Nadu, India, and the first woman and the highest ranking female elected official in United States history. Apart from being the first Afro-American and Asian American as the vice president, she has a long and successful career as an attorney and then Attorney General of California. Harris became the second African American woman and the first South Asian American to serve in the United States Senate in 2016. As a senator, she has advocated health reforms, federal descheduling of cannabis, a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants, the DREAM Act, a ban on assault weapons, and progressive tax reform. She gained a national profile for her pointed questioning on Trump administration's officials during Senate hearings, including Trump's second Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, who was accused of sexual assault. However, talking about her works in foreign policy, I suppose she's yet to take a major exposure. And it looks this is the best time for her. Incidentally, she sought for 2020 presidential race for Democratic candidate, but dropped out before primaries. I'll give a little bit small view, a little bit of overview on Indo-US relations, which our esteemed panelists will take on further. India-US relationship has seen many ups and downs since the time India got independence. Fortunately or unfortunately, India was a fairly young nation when the Cold War started. She had many different issues to see off rather than indulge in the irrelevant agendas to her context. Although until the turn of the century, India kept receiving grants and other economic assistance from the US despite a few bumps on the way. From 2000, the trajectory of the Indo-US relations has seen an upward trend. The US and India have been working closely on different issues. For example, bilateral trade, which includes defense ties and diaspora, the rising hostility of China, free and open Indo-Pacific, climate change, COVID-19, to name a few. Having said this, I open the floor to our esteemed panelists for today's discussion who ace with their academic and professional works in the area. On the panel today to discuss with her, we have allotted almost 10 minutes for both the panelists to speak, and then we have got some question from our curious audience which we will take further. And allow me a few words to introduce them. We have Mr. Yugank Naik, Assistant Professor of International Politics at Department of International Relations, Goa University. He is pursuing doctoral research in Latin America Studies and World Cinema. He is also the founder, president of Parikrama Knowledge Terminus, and he writes monthly op-ed column on Bhangar Bhui on national security and foreign policy. On the other hand, we have Shradha Naik, Ms. Shradha Naik, Assistant Professor at Department of Political Science, Goa University. She is an MA in Political Science. from Department of Politics and Public Administration from Savitribai Phule Pune University. She had done her MPhil and PhD in South Asian Studies, Center for South Asian Studies, School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi. So I pass on to Mr. Yugank Naik to proceed further.
Thank you so much, Gopal, and I would like to thank the Pinnacle discussion group for having me here. It's always a pleasure to come to any program which is an initiative of students within the Goa University. First and foremost, as far as my opening remarks are concerned, I will limit it to the title itself. Your title says that anticipating trends in Indo-US relations under the Biden administration. So within the topic, there are three key highlights or the three key points which I would like to elaborate on. One is the anticipation. What are the things which could be anticipated in Indo-US relations, and also considering the evolving situations of the time in the times of a pandemic. Secondly, is the India-US relations itself. Okay, so what is the position of India as far as the foreign policy of United States is concerned, and also vis-a-vis the Indian foreign policy. And the third is that what we need to take into account is the Joe Biden campaign. Okay, the way the Joe Biden campaign was composed and the way it has voted out the sitting president of the United States. Well, first and foremost, as far as this anticipation is concerned, 4 points to anticipate is one, the COVID-19 response itself. Okay, so the end of COVID-19 pandemic is not in a near future. Okay, and the character of this pandemic is ever changing. Okay, right from its spread to the recently mutation to the recently newly found the stain in United Kingdom. As far as this COVID-19 pandemic is concerned, India and United States both remains the worst affected by this virus. Okay, and its response is globally criticized. First and foremost, the healthcare system of the United States, which is an indicator of a human development, stands completely exposed. It has exposed its capitalist healthcare system, and it has proved that it cannot provide the healthcare to all. So it is even if you see in a Biden's campaign, there was a huge resentment from the immigrant class and the people who have lost their jobs about this COVID response of the Trump administration. As far as the job losses is concerned, it is estimated, not an official figure, it is estimated that India has lost almost 8 million salaried jobs. And if you compare with the United States, the estimation is 10 million. And most of the Biden's vote, or the core constituency of Biden vote, is this constituency. And in fact, as far as the mailing vote is concerned, Biden received more mailing votes than Donald Trump. So as far as India is concerned, and if we put it in the category of anticipation, three major challenges as far as India is concerned that India is facing. One is the COVID itself. Okay, so though India has actually bent the curve, but it is far from the recovery. Okay, both in terms of economy and also in terms of healthcare. Okay, so India is currently struggling with the vaccination policy, how it will be done, and India and United States both are the federal state system. Secondly, the economy itself. So India has reached to a minus double-digit GDP. Okay, so it is, and in fact, India's economy, which is largely unorganized, losing of 8 million jobs, is a very it's a dangerous sign. And third, which India is facing the challenges on the security front, is the Chinese standoff in Ladakh. Okay, so what could be the global response as far as the resilience is concerned, as far as the response of India is concerned? It is fairly unilateral in nature, but if it escalates further, what would be the role of United States into it. So the second anticipation is the China-India standoff. So, and recently, if you see the Chinese problems with Australia, it is growing, and it is the first time which India has overtly supported and taken the Quad alliance seriously. It is also important that if you take into consideration the Trump administration, the Asia Pacific was an innovation of Obama-Biden era. So Trump shifted it to the Indo-Pacific. And to give a concrete basis to that, Donald Trump shifted the Pacific Command to an Indo-Pacific Command. So Quad would be an alliance in terms of anticipation. It would be of a great interest to see what shape Quad alliance takes in. So, and even in terms of Gopal mentioned it about this, Biden is a known face in India, but we need to also take into consideration that it is the Pakistan which gave Joe Biden its highest civilian award, which was the Hilal-e-Pak. So as far as this cutting off aid to Pakistani government was concerned, it was a Trump's decision. It was a Trump's administration decision. But it would be interesting to see that how Joe Biden handles the situation. Even if you see the interview with the current envoy, the current ambassador of United States in India, this Kenneth. So he remains non-committal as far as though he accepts the cutting off the aid to Pakistani government has paid off, but he remains non-committal as far as the terror groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed is concerned. So it is of a great concern that it is of a concern of India, the way how Joe Biden would handle the issue of Pakistan and the infiltration. Third is the US Taliban proposed deal. Okay, so as far as India is concerned, India's status in this deal is a fait accompli, is because we do not have a role as far as this deal is concerned, and we have been in a unique problem, is because it is the Pakistan which benefits from all the quotas as far as this deal is concerned. And if you see the Donald Trump's special interest and the appointment of Zalmay Khalilzad as a special envoy to Afghanistan, what it has done, it has given an upper hand to Pakistan as far as the negotiation with the Taliban is concerned. So, and in terms of a withdrawal of the US troops from Afghanistan, okay, so even if we get into this bandwagon, and if we side with United States, but will India be able to provide a security or a role in a security, okay, if the situation demands? As far as India's interest in Afghanistan is concerned, it doesn't go with United States architecture. It goes with the architecture of Iran and Iran and Russia. Okay, so, and this is the first time that India is facing its worst nightmare or the worst threat as far as national security is concerned, because it is facing a threat of a two-faced war, which is a two-front war, which is one with China and other with the Pakistan. So, and the third and the fourth anticipation would be that India has a surplus trade with United States. But though it is good for India, but United States sees it as a problem. Okay, so as far as the FDIs and other investments are concerned, it will be interesting to see how Joe Biden takes a position on that. So as far as this traditional United States view of Indian economy is concerned, which is now changing, is twofold. One is that it sees India as a cheap labor market, and secondly, it sees India as a large consumer market. So, but the role is changing, and the India's surplus with United States is a matter of concern with the US administration. So India's suspension under this generalized preferences system. Okay, India would like to reinstate its status and a designation under this arrangement. Okay, is because of the India's exports, and it was also as far as this Paris Agreement is concerned, which Donald Trump pulled off. It would be interesting to see that when United States rejoins this Paris Agreement, okay, because it was in India's interest, and it was actually the Obama Modi diplomacy, okay, which persuaded India to get into this Paris Agreement. So this is the anticipation. As far as the second part of the topic is concerned, Indo-US relations are concerned. So as far as the India's foreign policy view is concerned, India remains as a always says that it should have a strategic autonomy. So strategic autonomy is some sort of a buzzword, or it is kind of an evolving theme. So as far as India and United States are concerned, both are the large democracy, and it also has a deep state mechanism. What is deep state mechanism? Is that it has a fixed interest and a goals. Okay, as far as the party view or the partisan view of president or the prime minister is concerned, there are standardized. There is a standardized approach for the certain things. As far as the India and United States bilateral relations is concerned, even if you see its history since, if you trace the history since it's a Cold War, so it has not been a very easy foreign policy, because it was a part of a mutual suspicion. Okay, but post 2000, and especially after the signing of this Indo-US security framework agreement, there has been a considerable elevation as far as the India-US bilateral relations is concerned, and now it has reached to a more strategic level. Uh, so Biden's view as far as this as far as Kashmir is concerned and its human rights issues are concerned, it is well known. But it will not figure in its presidency, is because of this deep state mechanism. So what is bilateral relations? Is that our India-US bilateral relations has reached to a strategic level. It has signed the various strategic agreement. It started from Lemoa to Comcasa and to Bika. So now we share the information. Okay. So what we have now reached as far as information is concerned is a NATO level partnership as far as information gathering and sharing is concerned. So it is standardized. Bureaucracy has reached bureaucracy is well established as far as the bilateral relations is concerned, whether it is a 2.2 dialogues or the other initiative. So what it requires is the certain imagination and shaping. So even if you take as Obama's presidency as a pretext, Obama didn't show a much of an interest as far as India is concerned in his first tenure. But as far as his second tenure is concerned, Obama administration actually invested in India-US bilateral relations. Okay, right from getting India into several control regimes, or as far as the cooperation in the G20 summit is concerned. So there has to be an imagination as far as a as far as bilateral forum is concerned. Lastly, as far as multilateral relations is concerned, as it's often cited from the US administration, that India is a multilateral partner for the United States. With two things, when India is seen as a multilateral partner as far as the United States is concerned, one is the global institutions, India's belief in the global institutions, and secondly, the process of democratization. And this remains a core values as far as this Biden administration or the Biden campaign is concerned. It's because climate change has been a sort of a flagship point as far as the Biden campaign is concerned. And if you see the recently proposed his recent appointment, he has appointed John Kerry as the climate change ambassador for the United States. So this is where India and United States shares a common grounds. And if you see Donald Trump administration, Donald Trump pulled out from a very important organizations, regimes, and the treaties, which was of a key importance or a strategic importance as far as India is concerned. One was the WHO, second was the UNESCO, the Human Rights Council, the Joint Comprehensive Plan for Action, Iran nuclear deal, Paris climate change, transatlantic, trans-Pacific alliances. So these are very key to India. So India would see, India would observe these things keenly, and Biden had promised to reinstate, to get United States back to these agreements. And lastly, I would sum up is that what Biden promised is, as far as his posturing towards China is concerned, and even if you see his recent appointment that he has made Anthony Blinken as a Secretary of State, so even as far as his personnel and commanders are concerned, these are the people who would like to engage China, okay, and not to abandon or disrupt things. So it will be a key, because Biden, as far as Biden campaign is concerned, he promised that if he comes to power, Biden administration would organize a summit for democracy. Okay, so this is the same sort of initiative which Obama and Biden organized in 2009 as far as nuclear security is concerned. So I would like to close my opening remarks on that. As far as the future is concerned, I mean, as far as it would be, as the United States and India's relation would be on this front. It is a bilateral and multilateral, and it would be interesting to see how the things unfold in the times of a pandemic, is because both the countries remains the worst affected of this virus. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Yugank sir. You have actually touched every point that we were anticipating. But at the same time, I would also like to say that you talked about the fickleness nature of US foreign policy that sometimes doesn't match with Indian foreign policy. At the same time, you also touched about the currency manipulation thing, which was actually last week it was in the news. You talked about the uh, economic issues. So I think you have touched everything, and at the same time, there was a little food of thought for thought that you gave about the uh, Obama administration regarding the Pakistan, China, and Iran. So the scenario is not going to be the same as Trump administration is right now. So having said this, I will pass on the baton to Ms. Naik, and I will ask her to put her remarks onto this topic. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you, Gopal. And I thank Ramrai and the
You're welcome,
team
ma'am.
Pinnacle for allowing me to speak on this very interesting topic. And I also congratulate students from Goa University for taking such key topics and interest in foreign policy, because most of the times it is seen as the Delhi domain, where it is only discussed by the New Delhi. So going further, being a second speaker, I think most of the issues are already been handled by Yugank very well. I have a small PPT as a presentation here, and I would like to highlight more on the current aspects of the foreign policy of both the countries. And when we're looking at the future of anticipating what will be our future of both the countries with regard to India and United States, we also have to look at the present, how things have shaped, and also at the past, because things have been in continuation, and of course there were ups and downs, but we have to look into the several aspects which has contributed to the position where we are at the present, and further on we can anticipate how it will be molded. I hope my PPT is visible to all. So when we are looking at the Indo-US relations, when we say these relations are most of the times now highlighted as strategic partners. These two countries are highlighted as strategic partners. They're also seen as natural allies because presidents like Obama claim these two countries as the natural allies. So these words really mean a lot for a country like India to be partnered with United States. Then they are also called as defense partners, also highlighted as now been highlighted as comprehensive strategic global partners. And when it comes to India and United States, we always had this bipartisan support, both with regard to Democrats and the Republicans. Since both these countries are the democracies, they promote human rights values and values such as liberties. But looking at the past, these two relations of these two countries were also been going through various challenges, and it has evolved through several phases. We can see the definition of Dennis Cox, who had defined United States and India relations as estranged democracies because their relations was not very cordial during the time of the Cold War. And they even defined India's NAM support as immoral because United States claimed India to have chosen for various anti-American stance as they were pro-Soviet Union. And several cases like Kashmir plebiscite or India favoring China's seat in the United Nations Security Council did really bring in that anti-Americanism stand with regard to vis-a-vis India and United States. But with the end of Cold War, the United States being the only unipolar power and the change in the engagements could be visible. And with the rise of China now, the changes has been quite more visible. With the second phase of India and US relationship, Indo-Russian Friendship Treaty, which was signed in 1971, and the Bangladesh Liberation Movement of 1971 did really bring like a stalemate in the relations of both these countries. And with regard to Soviet invasion in Afghan, India refused to support and US's proximity with Pakistan also brought a greater level of compromising situations for both the countries. When it comes to the Diego Garcia and weaponization of the Indian Ocean region, United States proclaims for their larger presence in this region where India has opposed its stand for promoting the Indian Ocean as a zone of peace. And with India's Pokhran test and nuclear policies, United States and India had these continuous nuclear appetite and challenging situations. But with coming up the Rajiv Gandhi government and further on with Narasimha Rao government, there were several improvements with both these relations with regard to safe funds and naval exercises, which eventually again had a stalemate with regard to Pokhran 2 test. In the current period, with the rise of China and issues of terrorism with regard to 9/11 and 13 December Indian Parliament attack, the two countries have come together in defense sectors, and with visit of President Clinton in the year 2000 and Vajpayee government signing several treaties, we could see these two governments really coming together. And in the year 2008, with signing of the getting entry into the NSG and with 123 agreement and signing of the civic nuclear deal with the United States, both these countries have really progressed with their relations. And their relations were primarily focusing on issues like IT, macroeconomic policy, and energy security. In the recent periods with Modi and Obama relations, and along with Trump, relations have been very good. We could see the Howdy Modi campaign and Namaste Trump event, which has shown how far these two countries have come from being anti-American to being called now as a comprehensive strategic partner. Along with this, these improvements, we still have several challenges. Both these countries have several challenges, like its agreement to really get India into UNSC seat, initiations with Doha Development Round negotiations, and with AFPAC policy, and Pakistan being a close ally with United States. Under US was how was US under the Trump? So when we have to understand the future of US and India relations, we also have to study or understand how was US and India's relations under Trump, and how was US under Trump for last several years now. So Trump was more pragmatic, he was impulsive, his policies were called as more transactional, and he gave less accordance to multilateral interactions, where we could also see high racial polarization with regard to Mexico border. Also there were high tensions, and high tensions with regard to immigrants. And his policies were of H-1B visas, protectionist measures with regard to tariff regulations, and the response to climate change was the challenges that that shaped the internal and the foreign policy aspects of United States, and these were also the challenges for India to be addressed during this time. When we talk about the Biden administration, or the Trump's foreign policy with India was seen as a continuation of the legacy of Obama and Biden administration, with signing of several defense ties like BECA and COMESA and naval operations. And US under Biden, how can we really see how US will progress under Biden now? Biden is seen as more of a traditionalist. He's a democratic leader, and he gives more preference to his allies and diplomacy. So his campaign documents highlights on these particular aspects of having close relations with multilateral interactions with different institutions and different allies such as European Union, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and countries which are dominant or predominant for US relations and US position at the international stage. As we see, he is the 46th president, and there is inclusion of the first woman and Indian American as a vice president, as Kamala Harris has taken as vice president. So these are the presidents that we can see in the US administration for next few years now. And when we discuss about Biden's initiation as a president, he is highlighting America to be the next power, or the re-emergence of America as a power, because we have seen a weaker America under Trump, which was not that very much vocal with regard to several international issues, with several issues which really required, or the world was looking at America for its response and for its actions. So here Biden has highlighted in his election campaign, where he says that America is back and you can depend on us. So this is the call that he has given to the entire world. So it shows a lot of optimistic, lot of positive, and a lot of ambitious US for next few years now. With his policies, we can say it is more of liberal, multilateral. It will be rebuilding alliances with Europe and East Asian countries, and also with NATO. And He highlights his campaign document more on issues which were to some extent neglected, avoided, completely denounced by Trump administration, such as issues like climate change, nuclear proliferation, great power aggression, transnational terrorism, disruptive new technologies, and mass migration. And he has also claimed that in his campaign document that these issues are of global challenges, and America alone cannot handle these issues or address these issues by itself, and it requires support and cooperation of other countries at large in dealing with these aspects. When it comes to India and US relations under Biden, it's more of cooperation will be more focusing on political, economic, and military aspects. And they will be also focusing more on combating three C's, basically China, combating climate change, and combating COVID-19. So Biden, under his administration, has this common goal of addressing Pacific deterrence when it comes to China. So China is a common link here for US and India to address aggressive and assertive China in Asia Pacific, and it also joins with the India's Act East policy and USA's focus on the Asia Pacific and China's rise. China's dominant or aggressive nature over Taiwan, South China Sea, in Asia Pacific, its behavior with regard to Hong Kong, and shifting with regard to economy, its protective measures, and also been acting as a debt trap for several countries, and shifting supply. The US will now be trying to shift its supply chain out of China. So with regard to economy and with regard to defense, on these two grounds, India and USA will see China as a common so-called as rival to address together, and India will try to, of course, join much closer with USA in this joint goal to achieve. Then these two countries have also signed their major defense partnership, 2+2 dialogue and the BECA, COMESA, which would help India to enable real-time intelligence sharing and exchange of information on military deployment. With regard to Quad, also India and USA have, under Biden administration, will see much deeper engagements with regard to expanding of their cybersecurity, counterterrorism, humanitarian aid, and disaster relief operations, which would also address China's predominance in the region, adjoining with other Quad members. With regard to economy, India, US share a very good economic relations, and Biden has proclaimed that he would try to bring up the economic relations of both the countries from 150 billion to $500 billion. But speaking about economy, it's again a challenging situation for both the countries, as both have their own aspects of promoting their economic interest, where America focuses more on making America great again, and India has its own program of making India. And both the countries also have issues with tariff and protective measures, where USA has also denounced India's practices of levying high import duties on US goods, especially with regard to the Harley Davidson motorbike super bikes, which had to shut down its unit and join with the Hero Motocorp. Then there are possibilities seen with the restoration of generalized system of preferences, that is basically the supply of high-tech equipments. And India also uh, expects to have been going further with a quick trade deal with America, if not much broader deal as such, but will try to engage at larger scale or with a smaller deal, and at maybe in the future we can expect more FTAs with America, and relations are more acrimonious, but it will not change drastically, and they will focus more on agriculture, dairy, poultry, and intellectual property. With regard to H-1B visas, it has been a major setback for Indian origin people in America, and for professionals and highly skilled professionals to get H-1B visas. So his campaign document has now proclaimed to revive the H-1B, H-2B, and JNL visa restrictions that were levied, and also give more green card allotment to the IT sector's professionals, which would also include giving work permits to the spouses of H-1B visa holders. Then, agenda for Indian American community was one of the significant presence in his Indian American in his campaign document, where for the first time this particular type of orientation was incorporated in the campaign document addressing the Indian American community, and we could also see significant presence of Indian American in the US administration, say with regard to Vice President, or we have Dr. Vivek Murthy, who has been chosen as the lead in the COVID-19 task force. Then there will be also cooperations with regard to pharmaceuticals, healthcare, vaccines, ICT, innovation, startups, education, renewable energies such as solar energies with regard to both these countries. With regard to India's neighbors, as Yugank has already highlighted this aspect of America's relations with Pakistan, and Biden's connections with Pakistan has been very close ones. With regard to the award that he was being given of Hilal-e-Pakistan, but during his tenure itself as Vice President of America under Obama administration, we could see the killing of Osama bin Laden, and America would also have its strong focus on the terrorist activities with regard to Pakistan, and its reactions with regard to treatment or handling of the issues in Balochistan and Gilgit-Baltistan. With regard to Iran, it is called Biden has declared Trump's policies or handling of Iran and sanctioning policies as a dangerous failure, and he would try to reverse it and try to also join JCPOA or P5+1 nuclear agreement. This would also help India in reviving its oil trade with Iran and also going ahead with the Chabahar port. Along with when we're discussing about Russia, Biden's focus on Russia will be quite critical, and we could say he wants to go ahead with the New START treaty, and there would be apprehensions with regard to India-Russia ties that have been quite stable and evolving for some time now. With regard to Middle East, Biden has praised Abraham Accord, and he has also initiated in restoration of West Bank and the Gaza Strip clashes between the two countries, and has also given full acceptance and support to Israel, and shown positive interactions with Saudi Arabia and the Middle Eastern countries. With regard to Afghanistan, he aims to end the forever wars and withdraw his troops. So it would be very important for India to see how their AFPA policy revolves and how withdrawing of American troops from Afghanistan would have an impact on the security aspects with regard to India and terrorism issues. In South Asia, we will also have to see how Biden will interact with other countries, India's neighbors, especially with say Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, where there has been close proximity or too much of interference or involvement of China in these neighboring countries. So how US interacts with these countries will have to be watched, and of course with regional groups like BRICS, which has been denounced by America time and again as a fallacy or as a failure or as just a mere talk shop, will also have to be handled quite diligently as well as tactically by India in addressing or balancing both the BRICS issues or its involvement in with BRICS with regard to its several specific common objectives with regard to the presence of Russia and China, both rivals of United States within that group, and India's presence in the group, and India's bilateral relations or interactions vis-a-vis BRICS and BRICS members and United States and the Quad. So how can India really balance these two groups, and its interactions will also have to be seen in much focus. So I would say with this, India's interactions will be quite deepening, quite engaging for both the countries, and India, the United States, most of its policies will be continued. There won't be any drastic change as such, but yes, we can see the new pattern. We can see a new style of administration as Biden is already overtaking a big America, a very racial polarized America. They have to address issues like pandemic, which has been a large failure in terms of America's losses considered. With regard to unemployment, also they have to address these issues with manufacturing derailed, and most of these foreign policies aspects are also not just discussed or are being decisions are not being just taken by the president, but also by the US Congress. So it will be very important to see how the US administration also takes decisions with the larger consonants, with larger discussions with the US Congress, and India will also have to face certain questions or certain criticisms from America with regard to human rights issues, with regard to religious and cultural freedom issues, which have been already raised by the Vice President Kamala Harris. To go into more further and detail, for America, it is, or for Biden administration, the focus will be more on the domestic policies for time being now, and not on foreign policy, be it with any other country. But in his campaign document, Biden is stressing more on bringing drastic changes or changing the foreign policy aspects with regard to climate change, immigrant policies, H-1B visa policies on the very day he assumes his presidentship. So for America now to really be called as the superpower, as the global power, and for the world to look at America, it will have to focus more on the world and promote various issues or values that it has been neglecting, such as democracy, human rights, liberal ideas, etc., and not just focus on America. And that will also help India to really cooperate, engage, and take its relations further. I think, yeah, I'm done with this, and thank you.
Thanks a lot, Fab. I think this is quite a concise but complete, the presentation of India-US relation till the moment. And I think Shradha ma'am has touched every aspect of be it, be it trade, commerce, economy, defense, human rights, COVID. She has almost touched everything. Now, since we are done with the opening remarks of both our panelists, now we are open to take questions uh, from our audience. So if anyone is there, and please raise your hand and put a question on the messenger. And I can also see Dr. Tripathi available here. Sir, could you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Good
But
afternoon,
I
sir.
will, good afternoon, but I will not be the first one to speak.
All right,
I
all right.
mean, at this stage, I just want to say that I like both the presentations. I keep hearing Shraddha regularly now, but I heard Yugank after a long, long time. So, and he looked like the old Yugank to me, which is a very welcome sign.
Same here, sir. Same
So,
here.
I will come back with my comments a little later. Yeah,
Sure,
maybe
sure.
the students can start. Yeah.
All right, sir. So if anyone has question, please go ahead. Uh, till then, I have a couple of questions to both our panelists. This is to Yugang, sir. So you talk about defense treaties, that is COMCASA, LEMOA, BECA, right? And you also talked about, you gave a little bit of hint that India may join some time down the line with this military pact NATO. However, as far as I understand, India has a condition with COMCASA, which is particularly has been prepared for India and US. So, and having said that, and having understood that the foreign policy of India, that it doesn't want to intervene in different countries' issue. So, how do you think, and when do you think that, due to having understood this one as well, the changing perception of India's foreign policy in the present government, how do you think, and when do you think that this might happen, that India may join NATO along with Pakistan and other countries in the league? And I have one question for Shradha ma'am as well. Ma'am, you talk about revival of JCPOA. However, during past 4 years, JCPOA is long gone because of the killing of Soleimani and recently the killing of Iranian scientists, nuclear scientists. So, although your presentation was quite remarkable and very optimistic, so do you think that it might get revived in near future? So, you can answer, please.
Yeah, well, Gopal, about your question about that whether it's a possibility that India would join a NATO or be a non-member partner, which can be a status, but I don't see the possibility that is happening, because as far as this the agreements that you have mentioned, that India will never give up its strategic autonomy, is because it decreases its leverage and power in the region. Okay, so the region and entire South Asia is important to India, but it also its importance to India and its dominance and its power structure really depends on its strategic autonomy is concerned. So I don't see that as happening. But as far as the COMCASA and LEMOA is concerned, and you have pinpointed this COMCASA, it's not about only the COMCASA. Even if you see the negotiation process of LEMOA, so it was Manohar Parrikar who was the defense minister at that point of time. It got delayed as far as this negotiation is concerned. And as far as this United States interest in signing of this agreement is concerned, or bringing India on the level of a NATO partners as far as information sharing is concerned, it is two things into consideration. The American view, and why United States has done it, is because United States is seeing Indo-Pacific, and in particular this Indian Ocean, a partner. Okay, so India has a largest navy in Indian Ocean is concerned. There is a maritime interest, and even if you see the recently concluded 2.2 dialogue, okay, in a joint press conferences, they have stressed on this maritime information. Second point, as far as this American interest in Indian Ocean is concerned, and giving the strategic document and a strategic cooperation and having India's strategic cooperation is how you deal with the China in the region. Okay, so China is, as a Chinese, as a Chinese threat is concerned, it is a common threat for the United States, both in a Pacific and in Indian Ocean, and in India in particular, is because India has a natural access to Indian Ocean. So even if you have this Chinese investment, the salience of communications of the Chinese, then it will disturb this balance of power as far as the South Asia is concerned, and India's view as far as the South Asia is concerned. So coming back to your primary question, whether it is a possibility that India would join a NATO, I don't think it is a possibility, because it largely deals with India's strategic autonomy.
All right. That kind of gives my answer. Thanks, sir. Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Yeah, Gopal. With regard to revival of JCPOA, of course, now with killing of these two important players in the signing of the treaty, looks quite difficult, and it will be a challenging task for the Biden administration to really come over the pre-withdrawal conditions, or let Iran really agree to the pre-withdrawal conditions that Iran had been opposing to, that the two countries were really stringent on. So with regard to Iran, now 12 times using this 12-time uranium in their nuclear nuclear practices, and Israel has been quite strongly opposing the deal and furthering of this particular treaty, with also accusing the Fakhrizadeh for running the second operation simultaneously. Of course, we will have to see in future how Iran really responds to these several accusations and killing of the major players who were promoting the treaties. Yes, it would be a challenging task for Biden administration, and depends upon the other players as well, like Israel, in really furthering this cooperation and agreement of JCPOA. Thank you.
All right, ma'am. I think that answers the question. I have a question from Julian Fernandez. Any of our panelists can answer this. I'll read out the question. While President Donald Trump has preferred charting out his own territory in foreign relations, would President-elect Joe Biden be inclined to replicate foreign policies of the Obama administration, or we will see a greater US economic and military engagement with India? So any of our panelists can answer within a minute. I mean, like, yeah, both of you can answer. Just a 1 minute comment.
Well, can I answer that?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting question, is because he mentioned this aspect of Obama, is because Obama is still what you call as an active ingredient in American politics. And to go further is that you do not have a leader as a state as of a stature of Obama even today, is because Obama still remains, so though he is not a president of United States of America, is because he still remains the highest followed personality as far as Twitter is concerned. Okay, so he has a massive grip and an impact over the millennials, especially the millennials and the young crowd, as far as the United States is concerned. So even if you see the Biden campaign, the moment Obama entered the Biden campaign, it received a momentum. Okay, so even so, there are two factors as far as this Obama is concerned, as far as the Biden's ideation is concerned, ideation of foreign policy, Biden's ideation of administration is concerned. One is the campaign itself. Okay, and secondly, even if you see the appointees of this Biden administration, whether it Anthony Blinken or NSA Jack Sullivan. So these are the people who have served in a various positions as in the Obama administration. So there is what you see as Obama signature in the Biden administration. Okay, and even if you even if you see on a backdrop on which these two presidents have emerged, and as a little bit of history as far as Obama is concerned, Obama appeared on a backdrop of George Bush idea of nation building, or the Bush's interventionism, okay, adventurism as far as United States is concerned. And then Obama had a challenge to relocate United States as far as this emerging global order was concerned. So similarly, as far as Biden is concerned, Biden is emerging on this Trump's disruption. Okay, so as far as this Obama is concerned, it can be clear, this Obama signature can be clearly seen on the Biden's campaign, and as far as his appointment of his team is concerned, there's an Obama stamp out there. Okay, so I think even even what I mentioned about the summit of democracy, this process of democratization, this process of multilateralism. Okay, so as far as multilateralism, climate change, and this democratization is concerned, it can be seen as a Obama plus. It's like you can term it as a somewhat as a Obama plus. It looks as of now.
Ma'am, your comment, please.
I really like the terminology that Yugank has given to this current administration of Obama plus, and I really, yes, of course, it is a group of the Democrats which are quite famous, quite powerful, quite influential in the entire team, and we could of course see the continuation of the Obama policies. With regard to when we see the revival of several of these policies, like say climate change, or with joining with different multilateral institutions like UNESCO, or different other interactions with different countries, we could see the revival of the Obama policies and administration. And of course, yes, Obama will have his strong, we can use the word interference and influence in furthering or in total engaging with the world and presenting America as a global power again. And yes, Yugank is again right when he's saying that Biden and Obama has achieved a feat over Trump's weaknesses, or over Trump's failures, over several of the policies which were not favoring the image of America as such at the larger scale, which will have to be revived, which will have to be remade for America to really be called as a global power and seen as that particular position at a higher scale. Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot, ma'am. Okay, I can see the people are interested and they will ask questions. But I have one question to both of the panelists. We have seen that across the presidents, Democratic president, from Clinton to Obama to Joe Biden, they have been very vocal about human rights violations. And even in a recently concluded election, Joe Biden did mention at some point that in Kashmir, the political prisoners need to be, need to be freed. So having said that, the situation is quite kind of identical in both India and China with their perspective. So I want a comment from both of our panelists as to how do you think that this particular development or this particular issue may impact the relations of India and United States going further. This is going to impact the Conference of Democracy that Yugank had just mentioned about. So, will that be an agenda in that conference? Or how do you think this thing is going to pan out? So you can start. You can start.
Okay, well, these are two different issues as far as this democratization and the human rights issues in India is concerned. Okay, so as far as there's a tangible shift in the U.S. view of the Kashmir, is that Kashmir there's a silence over as far as this presidency, several presidencies is concerned over the issue of Kashmir, and Kashmir has been viewed as a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan, though not officially, but as far as certain conditions are concerned, that the long silence over the Kashmir issue, as far as the presidency is concerned of the United States, it was always a Pakistan who wanted Kashmir to be an international issue, because that's the position of strength as far as Pakistan is concerned. Okay, but that has mellowed down. As far as this Biden's view on the Kashmir is concerned, there are banner lines, there are headlines, there are articles written, and there is Joe Biden's. You can quote Joe Biden as far as the Kashmir and the human rights violations are concerned. But it is very difficult to reflect on his presidency. As I mentioned, there is also a deep state mechanism where both the states have a fixed national interest and the goals. Secondly, it can reflect not on a presidency, but the Congress has turned Democrats. Okay, so you would see more sorts of congressional hearings, more sorts of a congressional inquiry, issues of religious freedoms handled by a Congress. Okay, so there would be sizable questions, and there would be a certain camp within a Democrats who would be vocal about these issues as far as this India is concerned. But I don't see that is reflecting in the presidency or being an issue as far as this president of United States is concerned. Yes, but definitely there would be a tough questions. The situations would not be the same as it was in a Congress which was a Republican, and also Donald Trump and a constituency which made Donald Trump as the president of United States didn't bother much about these issues. Yes, there would be a tough questions, but not as far as this presidency is concerned.
Okay, sure. Ma'am, your take on the question, ma'am?
Yeah. As in flow with Yugank, as he says, yes, it would be an important issue. It would be one of the issues which were, of course, neglected during the Trump era, especially with regard to Kashmir issue and other human rights violations issues with regard to, say, caste, religion, and even gender to that extent, which were criticized, which were being highlighted in the present campaign document also. And when we say Kamala Harris, her past comments on human rights violations with regard to Kashmir, or with regard to 370 article or NRC and CAA implementation, yes, there has been certain questions raised against India's implementation of these policies, or and its reactions from America. All the Democrats have been little critical with regard to these practices, but when it would be different when it comes to being a Congress, being a party to the Democrats as a leader and having the administrative post such as vice president or as a president, it would be really or if different posts for them to really address these issues. So I don't see it will be the same kind of continued way of critical or challenging aspects towards human rights violations with regard to Kashmir or other human rights violations with regard to caste or religion are concerned. As far as India's internal matters are concerned, I would say US will be little reluctant, or of course it will address these issues, but it won't be that open, it won't be that challenging for the Modi government in present, and it won't be as strict form of the criteria for both the relations of both the countries. And of course, it would be one of the primary issues to be discussed or raised as and when this type of violations take place, but it won't be to that extent affecting the bilateral relations of both the countries. Thank you.
Okay, that kind of gives the answer. All right, so I'll open the questionnaire to the audience. If anyone has, you can speak. Yeah, Tripathi sir. Yes, you can ask him.
Okay. I hope I'm visible and
Yes.
audible both.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a pleasure to hear both Yugank and Shradha. And I mean, both of them actually appear to agree with each other a lot. I was hoping that the kind of panel Ramara has put up, there will also be disagreement. But looks like both of them had a pact and both of them are agreeing with each other on almost every issue. I thought I will bring in some degree of disagreement by bringing in South Asia or Trumpism, but that also has been in a way handled. So, I mean, Yugank has actually partly answered my question. I mean, what I was planning to ask was that, yes, there has been a regime change in the US, but then the legacy of Trumpism very much looms large. And Trumpism became what it is, not just because of Trump, but the world system also emerged at a time like this when, I mean, regimes across the world were growing nationalism, moving away from multilateralism. So first thing is that what is the extent to which the world is going to change so fast for Biden to really try to make his own imprint? Will Trumpism be so easy to dismantle? So partly Yugank has already answered that, but in case you would want to respond to this, do you think that the legacy of Trumpism is going to go off so easily that Biden would be able to come on his own in the near term? That's one. And second, Yugank, I heard you using the term deep state a couple of times. What is your understanding of this term deep state? Because I mean, my understanding of it was a bit different, but just if I could hear from you. So these 2 points to Yugank.
Sir, about your deep state structure. So it is not the same terminology that we use to describe the Pakistan. Okay, so it is not about this coalition between a civilian government and a military establishment overlapping the civilian government. So what I mentioned was a deep state mechanism. So deep state mechanism is when you talk when I mentioned about this mechanism, there are consistent interest. There is a large group and a mechanism which is largely a bipartisan in nature, which maintains and keeps the national interest fixed. So in a context of that, I mentioned this deep state mechanism, and not the way we perceive the deep state as far as this Pakistan and other states are concerned, which are highly authoritarian. So my view about that, and my definition of a deep state was not deep state, but a deep state mechanism, as far as this uh, as far as this consistent interest is concerned. Sir, your point is very valid and very interesting. Is that it's a defeat of a Trump doesn't mean a defeat of a Trumpism. Trumpism exists in all sorts of forms, and if we see the G20 countries and the kind of regimes that represents this G20 countries, there is a shift in terms of ideological leanings and the structuring is concerned, and most of the G20 countries today are represented by what you see as a far right, or not a far right, but a right right sort of political alignments. And even to go to further extent, some commentators describes it at a rise of an alpha male culture as far as this regimes are concerned. But this is a global thing that most of the developing states and the industrialized states are moving towards this core component of nationalism, and which is a ultra nationalism, which is a far right nationalism. So even if we decode the mandate, even if we decode the election results, still Donald Trump, who didn't hold an office before becoming a president of United States, doesn't belong to the Republican Party. I mean, not he was not a party person. He was seen as an outsider, becoming a Republican candidate. Still, and his entire tenure has been a challenge to a credibility of United States. But at the end of the result, it is the 47% of a vote share which Donald Trump has achieved. And as far as this Joe Biden is concerned, as far as Joe Biden's elevation as a candidate of a Democratic Party is concerned, it was never undisputed. It was always a disputed. Today, Joe Biden will be the oldest president of the United States at the age of 77. So we can already see, as if we see Donald Trump as a polarizing figure, but as far the way the campaign had been conducted, the kind of arguments put forth, and in color in which it was carried out, it was seen as though Joe Biden is also a counter polarizing figure. I mean, this was if we see the issues like immigration, if we issues like the color violence, okay, which were made as a polarizing issue. So yes, there is a polarization, but there is also a counter polarization to that. But as far as the elevation of a Joe Biden is concerned, it is a defeat of a Donald Trump, but not the Trumpism is concerned. And yes, there has to be investigation in factors which are giving rise to this sort of domestic Trumpism within the countries. Okay, so even if we see the history, even if we trace the world history, so the obvious reasoning could be the rise of a right-wing regimes have surfaced when there is a greater economic recession or a depression of a sort, or an economic crisis of a sort. Yes, but the rise of Joe Biden gives a hope for countering this sorts of regimes all across the world. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Yugank. Well said.
I can add
Shradha
a
wants
little bit to this.
Yeah. You want to add?
Yeah. Yeah. Along with that, I think the Biden's policy of reaching out to the former allies which were neglected under the Trump, especially the European Union, East Asian countries, Japan, and also different multilateral institutions, and its take on how he intends to really go further with these institutions like United Nations, or reviving its relations with the World Health Organizations, UNESCO, etc., and different international financial institutions like the World Bank and WTO, also shows that there would be larger trend of going together with the allies, and with the allies which are having certain different types of international views or the world view, which was being neglected and which was being denounced by the Trump administration, especially with regard to climate change negotiations and other financial trade related negotiations at a larger scale. So I would say yes, Biden would try to revoke these engagements and revive these partners and try to bring down that far rightist interaction that was encouraged and bring up with the former allies, especially even India's role, we can say, would be quite prominent with regard to this new type of partnership to really bring in Biden's administration and presidency.
Yeah, thanks, Shradha. Well said.
All right. Thanks a lot, sir. All right. Is there anyone else who have any question to ask to our panelist? Okay, Siddesh, you can ask.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good
Yeah,
afternoon.
it is predicted that in year 2028, China will overtake the US economy. China are investing a major stake around the world, like building their ports, army bases, reconnecting the Silk Road. How the India should on concern on this, and the Joe Biden administration will support India or China? Yeah, that's all.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. A quick comment from both our panelists. Thank you, Siddesh.
Yeah, we can see rising China and especially with regard to India-US relations, I would say China is different from what past 30 years China was being presumed, and thus with that we can see a sea of change with regard to China's rise of economy, with the rise of its interactions with different countries in the world, and with its initiation of the Belt and Road Initiative and also establishment of the AIIB, the Infrastructure Bank. So we can see a larger presence of China in a greater scale in almost every part of the world, in almost every country, especially in the region of Latin America and Africa too. Now, China has been showing its larger presence, and of course, that will have an impact on China's position as an aspiring global power. And yes, when it comes to India and USA, China is seen as a potential rival, and of course, they will both try to come together and also address the aggressive policies, practices that China has been practicing within the neighborhood, which is very much affecting India with regard to Ladakh and the recent standoff at LAC, and as well as in the eastern region, especially with after the Doklam case, and of course the Indian Ocean, which is observed as too much of presence of Chinese, both in terms of economy as well as military bases, is a threat for India. And that string of pearl theory has been in vogue or in discussion for quite some time now, where both India and USA would try to together address Chinese rise and Chinese aggressive rise as such at the helm, and to really counter it with the groups like Quad and with other multilateral institutions. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Your comment, Yugank, sir.
Yeah, well, just to add to Dr. Shradha, is that China, whether when we talk about the China as a rising power, but China is already a power which is risen. But there's difference between a global power and a dominant global power. When you talk about the global dominant power, it is also a power which has a keen interest in shaping the global order. And when you shape a global order, it should have a certain responsibility and accountability. So as far as this Chinese behavior is concerned, so even when you talk about even when they launched the Belt Initiative program, okay, uh, the president of China said that we are not interested in exporting revolutions to other countries. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Rahul, sir. Thank you so much, Rahul, sir. So for your precious time, so taking out your precious time and coming here and listening to us, your students. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Yeah, you don't have to interrupt yourself. Thanks. It's a bit urgent. I need to leave. See you. Bye. Yeah. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, continuing the point, as far as the shaping of a global order is concerned, which is China, with China is not really interested and keen on, is as far as their Belt and Road Initiative is concerned, it is a hyperlinking. It's a hyperlinking of this Chinese investment and bringing the developing countries under the Chinese fold of investments and the credits. So as far as its growth in this sphere is concerned, it remains a concern for growing economies like India, growing economy like Germany, economy like Japan, which obviously has a serious issues with China as far as neighborhood is concerned, and countries like the Australia. So one expression I would like to use, which was used by the former editor-in-chief of the Indian Express Group, which is Shekhar Gupta. He calls Quad as a Chin Pidit Samaj. Okay, if you take today, if we were talking, if we were having the seminars 1 year back, everybody would have nullified this idea of the Quad because India had never pursued the Quad seriously. Okay, and suddenly there is an unprecedented interest in a Quad. Why? It's because the matter of China. Okay, so as far as the United States is concerned, as far as the approach towards China is concerned, as far as Donald Trump Donald Trump actually started a trade war with China. I recently, when Mike Pompeo came to India for the 2.2 2+2 dialogue, he consistently mentioned the communist state of China, or the people's, or calling Xi Jinping as a general secretary of the Communist Party of China. Okay, so this sort of rhetoric, okay, and this sort of disruption, as far as if you do a deep analysis of this trade war is concerned, it is actually the United States which is at the losing end, okay, which gave a upper hand to China as far as this sort of disruption is concerned. But as far as this Biden's policy is concerned, Biden's policy of countering China is the multilateralism. When you establish a certain framework, invest in the institutions, build institutions, and then you keep China outside its ambit. So that is also a strategy. But what that strategy needs is a continuous interest and the investment of resources and ideas.
Yes, sir. And to add on your point, I mean, in recent development, France joining the Rim of Indian Association Group. So directly, it cannot come and tell that I'm joining Quad, but it could be the sense of urgency or a sign that how Quad is gaining its currency in the region. So with this,
I had one question.
Yeah,
Gopal, if I can ask. Yeah. So my question was basically to both the panelists, just to understand how the Modi administration is looking at this. Because so far we have spoken about the US administration, Biden now. Modi, because of his chemistry with the Republican, then he's been given the Legion of Honor award. And my second question is about the Russian equation to it, because we have seen in the last 3 or 4 days that the annual US Russia summit has been postponed. China also has written an editorial yesterday saying that uh, India has embraced US at the cost of Russia in the Global Times. So I wanted a quick comment on this from Yugank sir or Shradha ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, with Modi administration, Modi is the so-called, we have seen him as quite influential, quite powerful, quite admiring leader in terms of international relations of India and the world is concerned. And yeah, Modi will be handling the third president of the United States after Obama, Trump, and now Biden. So he has seen the all three presidencies, and he has witnessed and has been quite cordial and quite good with all these three, and especially with Trump, with this Howdy Modi and Namaste Trump events that took place. We could see a very close relation with Trump. With Biden, we would say yes, it would be continued. There won't be any drastic change or dramatic change as such with regard to the bilateral relations of the country. But yes, with certain aspects of, say, human right violations or appeasement of majoritarian policy in the internal politics of India, may have in future to some extent little bit of issues to be discussed with the US administration, but to greater extent, I think it is the national interest of both the countries that would converge, and personalities also do have important role in furthering these foreign policies and national interest of the countries. So it would be at a larger scale the MEA, the foreign affairs departments of both the countries, and of course the leadership, which is focusing more on diplomatic relations and ties, which would take further the relations of both the countries. And your second question on Russia's equations, Russia and Biden are being seen as challenging kind of a positions when he was also the vice president in the Obama administration. And in several news reports, we also found that Russian President Mr. Putin was one of the last one to congratulate Biden's win. So yes, we would have to see this greater level of tough with regard to Russia is concerned, and Russia's position, Russia's presence, and its behavior as such in its larger Eurasian domain, as far as countries like Belarusia is concerned, or Ukraine and other Eurasian countries surrounding Russia are concerned. So its behavior with these countries would also have an impact on a larger interactions or image of Russia with regard to US, and India's closer relations and closer ties with Russia with regard to defense ties and its involvement in different regional groups like BRICS will also have an impact on how India will be able to balance its relations with both these countries. To some extent, yes, India will have to also try and appease Russians for several of its defense deals and furthering its economic ties with the country, and also promoting its several demands through groups like BRICS, say UNSC reforms or reforms in different financial institutions, and demanding for a larger multipolar world order, which Russia and India together are promoting. So it would be a triangular kind of interactions where US will have to balance and India will also have to balance its interactions with Russia and US interactions will be molded depending on Putin's reactions to American policies. Yeah.
Well, to add on to this, Ramra, your question about that the Russia behaving in an uncertain way, and the reactions coming from Russia and China, as this presidency is, as far as the elections and India is concerned. See, first of all, you need to understand this Democrats' obsession with the Russia and the Republicans' obsession with the Chinese. Okay, so even when Trump came to power, it was the Democrats who accused Russia's involvement in it, and they were at the forefront of doing it. So when it comes to Trump, okay, so it is a anti-China rhetoric. Okay, so it is always the fear of the other. So you can parallel it with, you can compare it with India's obsession of certain political class as far as its obsession with the Pakistan is concerned. Okay, that always you have to be the fear of others. Okay, but in terms of Russia and China, the fear is more realistic than India's obsession. India's obsessed fear with Pakistan. Okay, well, importantly about this, India's dependence on India's relations with Russia is concerned. It is Russia needs more of India than India needs Russia at this point of time. Is as far as this relations between India and Russia is concerned, it is much more institutionalized than the United States, than India's relations with the United States is concerned. What is the concern of Russia at this point of time? Is that what benefited Russia during the Trump's tenure is that Trump's disinterest as far as this NATO is concerned. Okay, see, it was almost on the verge of dismantling NATO. Donald Trump's disinterest as far as European Union is concerned. So as far as and also the pullout from the Iran US nuclear deal.